always had a thing for exploring creepy places, but the old Carter mansion was a different beast. Rumored to be haunted by the family who once lived there, it stood at the edge of town, towering and decayed. "It's just a stupid building," I boasted, trying to sound tough. That was before the dare that changed everything. It was a Friday night, and the air was crisp with a hint of winter. The mansion loomed in the moonlight, its windows like dark, watching eyes. "I dare you to spend the whole night," challenged by Sarah, her voice tinged with a mix of excitement and fear. I couldn't back down, not in front of everyone. The front door creaked open with a groan, revealing a vast hall covered in dust and draped in cobwebs. My flashlight's beam danced over antique furniture and faded portraits of stern-looking people. The air was thick with the smell of mold and decay. I wandered into the living room, where a grand piano sat, silent and forgotten. As I moved deeper, I noticed the air getting colder, and a feeling of being watched crept over me. I shrugged it off as nerves. The dining room was next, a long table set with tarnished cutlery and cracked china. It was like stepping into a time capsule. That's when I heard it, a soft giggle from upstairs. My heart skipped a beat. "It's just the house settling," I muttered to myself. But the sound came again, clearer this time. Gathering my courage, I climbed the grand staircase, each step echoing through the silent house. The upstairs hall was a corridor of closed doors. I hesitated, then opened the first one. It was a child's room, toys scattered on the floor, a dusty dollhouse sitting in the corner. The giggle sounded again, closer, but the room was empty. A sudden chill ran down my spine, and the room felt like it was closing in on me. I hurried out, closing the door behind me. The next room was a library, shelves lined with ancient books. A whisper of pages turning made me turn around. But again, nothing was there. I felt a growing sense of dread, and the mansion seemed to be pressing in on me. The air grew colder with each step I took. I found a door slightly ajar at the end of the hall. Inside was a master bedroom, the bed still made, as if waiting for its owners to return. That's when I saw it. A shadow moving across the wall, not cast by anything in the room. I bolted out of the room, heart pounding in my ears. The hallway stretched out impossibly long before me. Doors slammed shut as I ran, and the portraits on the walls seemed to follow my every move with their eyes. The giggling turned into a chorus of whispers, echoing around me. I stumbled down the staircase and into the foyer, desperate to escape. The front door was jammed. I threw my body against it, but it wouldn't budge. Panic set in. I was trapped. The whispers grew louder, turning into a cacophony of voices, all speaking at once, drowning out my thoughts. Then, as suddenly as it started, everything stopped. The house fell silent. The door creaked open slowly, and the cold night air rushed in. I didn't look back as I ran out, across the lawn, and down the street to safety. At home, I tried to convince myself it was all my imagination. But I couldn't shake the feeling of those unseen eyes watching me, the whispers in the dark. I avoided passing by the Carter mansion after that. They say it's just an old, empty house, but I know better. There's something alive in there, something that watches and waits in the dark. And it knows me now. When I was a kid, we lived in a pretty nice neighborhood where the houses were spaced out and pretty big. Across the street from our house was this huge house, almost like a mansion. I could see it from my bedroom window. Our street was really quiet, so my friends Ethan, Max, and I would often play soccer in the street. One day, while playing, our soccer ball ended up on the mansion's property. When I went to get it, I noticed a boy around our age in one of the top windows. I quickly grabbed the ball and went back to playing. I asked my friends if they knew the kid living in the mansion, but they didn't. About a month later, I was playing Nintendo in my room and glanced out my window. I saw the same boy looking at me from across the street, which kind of freaked me out. I had never seen him outside. and I didn't know anything about the people who lived in that mansion. I asked my parents about the boy, but they said there wasn't any kid living there. Another day, while playing soccer with Ethan and Max, I thought of inviting the boy to play with us. I went to the mansion, rang the bell, and a woman in her 50s answered. I asked about her son, but she looked confused and a bit scared. She said she didn't have a son. When I described the boy I saw, she became really emotional. She took me to a room that looked like a boy's bedroom and showed me a picture of a kid. It was the same boy I saw. She then told me that her son, Oliver, had died 10 years ago. She had been living alone since her son and husband passed away. She believed me because there was no way I could have known about her son. The whole thing was both sad and scary. Months later, I saw the boy again in the window. I quickly closed my blind and tried to forget about it. Even now, thinking about it gives me chills. It was a dark and stormy night when my friends and I decided to visit the old mansion at the edge of town. We had heard stories about the place being haunted for years, but we were high school seniors now, and we were convinced that it was all just a bunch of nonsense. We wanted to prove our bravery and spend the night in the mansion, just for fun. As we approached the mansion, the wind howled through the trees, and the rain poured down on us, making it hard to see anything clearly. The mansion loomed in front of us, its windows boarded up, and its once grand facade now faded and crumbling. The place looked like it hadn't been lived in for centuries. We pushed open the creaky front door and entered the mansion. The air inside was damp and musty, and the faint smell of decay hung in the air. Our flashlights barely cut through the darkness as we cautiously explored the first floor. The walls were covered in peeling wallpaper, and the floors creaked with every step we took. The place was filled with old furniture draped in dusty sheets, like it had been frozen in time. We chuckled nervously and told ourselves that there was nothing to be afraid of. But as we made our way further into the mansion, the atmosphere grew increasingly eerie. We heard strange whispers in the distance, and the sound of footsteps that didn't belong to any of us. Our laughter turned into nervous glances, and we began to wonder if we had made a mistake coming here. We decided to split up to cover more ground and see if we could find anything that would prove the mansion was haunted. I went upstairs with two of my friends while the others stayed on the ground floor. As we climbed the creaky stairs, the air grew colder, and an unsettling feeling settled in the pit of my stomach. We entered a long corridor with multiple doors on each side. As we opened the doors, we were met with more of the same. Old, dusty rooms filled with decaying furniture. But then, I heard a faint, ghostly moan coming from one of the rooms. My heart pounded in my chest as I cautiously approached the door. I pushed it open and gasped in horror. Inside the room was a figure, shrouded in darkness, standing in the corner. Its eyes glowed with an eerie, unnatural light. I stumbled back in terror, and my friends screamed as they saw it too. Without thinking, we turned and ran down the corridor, our flashlights bouncing wildly in our trembling hands. We reunited with the others on the ground floor and tried to catch our breath. We told them about what we had seen, but they laughed it off, thinking we were trying to scare them. But the fear in our eyes was undeniable. As we debated whether to leave the mansion or continue our exploration, the lights suddenly went out. The darkness was absolute, and we could hear the sound of heavy footsteps approaching us from all directions. Panic set in, and we fumbled in the dark, trying to find our way out. But it was like the mansion had come to life, and it was closing in on us. We could hear whispered voices all around us, and the feeling of being watched was overwhelming. We finally found the front door and burst out into the stormy night, gasping for breath. As we looked back at the mansion, we could see lights flickering in the windows and heard a chilling, otherworldly laughter echoing from within. We never went back to that mansion again, and we never spoke of that night to anyone. We couldn't explain what had happened, but we knew that it was something beyond our understanding. The mansion, it seemed, was truly haunted, and we had experienced its horrors firsthand. To this day, the memory of that night haunts my dreams, and I can still hear the whispers and laughter of the mansion in the dark corners of my mind. It was a night that forever changed us, a night that reminded us that sometimes the things we don't believe in can be the most terrifying of all.